I want to start with a very big question in this draft. How do I put this? There has been some not so soft selling via like the telecast we see with Woj talking about this and stuff that Victor Wembanyama is the greatest team sports prospect of all time, or is this like once in a generational, never before seen thing, and it's like the hype around him is crazy. Where does he actually rank among? Let's just do NBA. Regardless of is he a better prospect than Messi at age 18 is a question I don't really think we can answer. But what is he as a prospect among guys this century? Like of the last 20 years, where does he actually rank? Where does he actually stack up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been covering the draft for over 10 years, and I think he's the most tantalizing prospect I've seen. If you would have asked me that question before this year, I probably would have said Zion. And how is that working out right now? Not super great. Luca, of course, up there too. Plenty more that I was wrong about. Markel Fultz. The list goes on. Anthony Davis,
Were
you
you
mentioned in there. I'm just thinking about it a
is
little
it
bit harder now. Of the last
Li
20
Li
years, we're saying
LeBron.
Li Jing, I can't pronounce his name, but the guy that worked out against a chair,
chair. He schooled that chair.
schooled that chair.
He went number 6, maybe? Yee?
Yeah,
Back in the day?
yeah.
I mean, I think Wemby lives up to the hype. I think Wemby's incredible. Just the fact that he's already going to be the tallest player in the NBA as soon as he gets drafted before he plays a game. He's really fluid athletically for a guy that size. The reason there's no 7'5" guys in the NBA is because all the 7'5" guys move like Taco Fall and Zach Edey. And Wemby does not move like those guys. He's really fluid for someone that size. Just an 8-foot wingspan is ridiculous. And there was a play going around Twitter from the championship series in France where he was basically able to tag the roller, then still recover to a wing shooter, which he deflected the ball, got a run out, steal, dunk out of it. Like nobody else is making that play to be able to recover from like tagging the roller deep in the paint to still getting out to the 3-point shooter. So just off tools alone, Wemby would be one of the best prospects ever. I think if you just looked at it like, okay, the guy is athletically pretty fluid. He's insanely fluid for 7'5". He has an 8-foot wingspan. He should be an all-time great play finisher on both ends of the floor. That's just like the tools. But then you look at what he actually did on the floor this year, and like he lifted his team to success when I don't think most people coming into the year thought like, okay, Mets 92 is going to be a really solid team built around a 19-year-old, and really just like that whole team was set up to like see what Wembanyama could do in terms of stretching out his skill set. It's not like they were competing in EuroLeague. They weren't like trying to win games. The prioritization was his development. And even with that, he was still able to lead them to unbelievable team success. I think he was like second in the league in scoring, first in the league in blocks, first in rebounds. Shooting percentages from deep, not always great, but I think he shot the ball really well from the free throw line. And then you just see the flashes of skill, the 1-foot, runners from 3. I have a story coming out on SB Nation later this week, just like ranking his best plays, like the 40 best Wembanyama plays. And they're all just totally ridiculous. So if you ask me, I think he's the best prospect since LeBron. Absolutely. And I don't think it's that bold of a claim just because he's 7'5". He has an 8-foot wingspan. He can move and he can shoot and he can pass and he plays hard. That does not mean at all that he's going to be the best player since LeBron. There's so many factors that could, prevent him from reaching his potential. But I do think the Spurs are a great landing spot for him. And I think if the guy stays healthy, he should be a all-time great basketball player. We'll see if he can live up to it. No pressure, kid. But yeah, I don't think it's too bold to say that coming into this draft.
So your point about the team success and kind of what the team evolved into being is one that lands for me because I watched I think games 1 and 2 of the finals, and I watched a couple games here and there throughout the playoffs, and teams were really gearing up against him in a way that I think surprised me because I knew what you're talking about. I think I had this impression of like this team is sort of just letting him try stuff. But to see him in actual basketball situations where he's getting doubled in the post and has to just sort of make a quick read, or he is, having to read a team a team's offense and, actually play defense. I guess I just had this impression that it was a little more high schoolish, or a little, like I had some of that in mind, G League Ignite, whatever, that a little bit less structured, because I knew that the team was there for his growth. But to see him doing stuff in real sort of competitive basketball situations, I actually think I read it the wrong way. And hearing you talk through it, I'm sold, because I was sort of reading that as like, he's not doing the wow stuff as consistently as I expected. And it was the playoffs, and it was a different situation, and I'm sure your 40 plays could convince me in a completely other direction, and they probably will. But that's where I started to get some reservations a little bit. But I think you're totally right to point out that being able to do that, there is something pretty huge and significant to be said, considering how young he is and how raw he is, that he was able to do those things with the amount of testing that the opponents were throwing at him as the playoffs went along, and to continue to win, continue to make winning plays. That's what made me drawn to Luka in the first place. So I feel a little silly. I appreciate you making me feel silly. I was also watching I watched the game, I think it was game 1 of the 1971 finals this week. I don't know why. They're all on the NBA app, and I was eating like lunch and just like, let's try some stuff. And there is something about it too that I think connects people of, the Kareem comparison, just because of their size and fluidity, has been said before. Again, good luck, young fella, and enjoy that comparison. One of the, best players of all time, but there is something so rudimentary about the way Kareem dominated that I think actually does extend to Wembanyama, and it sort of, you have to kind of step back and remind yourself, like, this dude, it's not normal to be able to do that at his size. And the fact that he can, and that it looks so effortless, is a testament to him, not a knock on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just like in general, the way people talk about Wembanyama in like such hushed tones, already so much pressure being put on him, like the smart bet is to fade him. Like, I mean, is he going to be as good as Jokic historically? Like, almost certainly not, right? Because Jokic is one of the greatest centers of all time. But it sort of feels like if he's not as good as Jokic, it's going to be a disappointment. And that's stupid. That just doesn't really make any sense. And there's just so much that could go wrong for him that, if you're saying, okay, is he going to be one of the 20 best players of all time? And then the other hand is be a bust. Like, it's going to be just hard for him to live up to the hype, just because the hype is so ridiculous. But I've written that same Kareem comparison myself when doing a deep dive into him. Maybe like I published a big story on him a year ago at the draft. Just sort of saying this guy's the next big thing, who's going to be the prize of next year's draft. He missed the previous draft by 4 days, because I believe he's born January 4th. So, if he was born a week earlier, he would have gone to the Magic instead of Paolo Banchero. But it just seems written in the stars for him to go to the Spurs, right? Not saying they rigged the lottery, but it just seemed a little too perfect in that. I think he was very excited to go to San Antonio. I think you have a nice completionist story here with Greg Popovich, probably coaching his first few years and hanging it up. But in general, like, there's no reason really to be super skeptical of Wembanyama. I do think he's going to have growing pains. One thing that just like watching his games, I've noticed he wants to take a lot of mid-range shots. And I wonder, like, that's going to be frustrating to watch, because it's like, dude, you should live at the rim. Like, just get him a veteran point guard. I don't know if it's Trey Jones or if it's someone else, and just throw the lob and just let him dunk it. He should be living at the rim. But I think he's going to want to take like Kevin Durant style shots. And when those shots go in, it's going to look amazing. But is he going to be able to hit them efficiently enough where it's consistently good offense? I don't know. And even if he's putting up like, all-star caliber numbers, like before this show started, we were chatting about the numbers Porzingis was putting up. It just feels like in today's NBA, if the team is built around you, like the offensive efficiencies are so high around the league that somebody has to amass those numbers. So I think like he's going to put up big numbers early in his career. There may be an all-star discussion. I've heard that from, I think, maybe Javoni's been saying that lately, that he's going to be an all-star in his first year. And you can sort of see the pathway to that happening just because, I mean, someone on San Antonio has to score. And if he's, durable enough and available enough, he's going to put up some big stats, I think. But I don't know. Like, he's got so much pressure on his shoulders. I think he's awesome, but just because he's one of the best prospects ever does not mean he's going to be one of the best players ever.
Chris, I'm curious what you think of him, or your thoughts. But I think the best way to put my thing is not even so much that I'm fading him or thinking he's going to be a bust. I think it's just maybe what a lot of fans who might be dipping into his playoffs this past month, or who will be watching him in October or at Summer League, apparently he might play, is just coming to somebody so late when the hype is already there. And I think that's what I was experiencing, where you're almost comparing them to that instead of just absorbing their game. And I think that's a lot of what was going on. And yeah, some of the frustration over the shot selection, I think is there too. But he's going to be a blast, and I think the impact he can make defensively is going to be immediate. What do you think?
And I do think the Spurs part of this is worth hitting on, just because I think if there's a place that I would feel would give him, at least historically before we know that franchise, like who, it's changed. It's not the same as it was. Like, this isn't like just a recreation of Duncan. That's not how this ever works. These things aren't ever 1-to-1. But if there's an organization that would feel like it is built to help cater Victor Wembanyama to be able to live up to these expectations, like, you would think it's the Spurs, right? Like that to me is like one of the things I like about this, because he has Pop there to shepherd him. They are going to have a front office that has done some of this before. That there's already some good players there. Like, I'm a Keldon Johnson fan. Like they did brand him in the first round last year. Like, they had they like Zach Collins is like an interesting guy to play with in the front court as he starts to just like, there isn't. Like, this isn't like he ended up in Charlotte where it's like, I just don't know what you're getting into there. We kind of know what he's getting into here, and he's going to need this, like, LeBron. I would be curious to see what LeBron would have to say about this if we got him candidly about this, because that is the only guy that has come in. Maybe Zion too, at least got close to that, the hype at least. But LeBron came in with this pressure to save a franchise, to live up to being Michael Jordan, to being the chosen one and having that tattooed on him and being on the SI cover. This is the 2023 version of that, where they're putting his games on the NBA app and they're alerting you when Victor Wembanyama is playing, and like, they flew Wendy to France to do like a 2-minute TV hit. Like this is where we're at with Wemby, and he's going to have to survive that as much as he's going to have to adjust to the NBA. And I wonder, like, if the Spurs feel like a good place for him to do that based on what we know about that organization.
Yeah, I really like Sohan as a potential fit next to him on the floor, because he can defend all over the floor. He's 6'9", really quick twitch athlete, can't shoot at all, but Wemby's going to shoot. He's going to space the floor for you on offense. So I think that sort of alleviates some of the spacing concerns with Sohan as your 4. I think Devin Vassell could be in for, possibly an all-star turn, playing next to a star player. Keldon's pretty cool. I still have Blake Wesley stock from last year as just a really athletic rim attacking point guard. And really what the Spurs have been missing is just like sort of the straw that stirs the drink. They've had a lot of good role players, but they just haven't really had that lead initiator that, is going to begin and end all actions. And I think, Wemby's just set up perfectly for that. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. He's going to be really fun to watch. And I think San Antonio is a great spot for him.